The GTA gang case, named by journalists, contains 150 volumes. During the investigation, more than 150 examinations were conducted, about 200 witnesses were interviewed, and thousands of investigative actions were performed. The gang consisted of 14 people, whose identities were established. The leader, Ibedelo Subkanov, was killed during the arrest. Before his death, he managed to warn his accomplices, which gave them a few days' head start. Nevertheless, 9 bandits were soon arrested. The remaining 5 managed to escape, but 2 of them were later found and detained in Tajikistan. According to investigator Alexei Stadnikov, the gang was created exclusively for attacks on citizens for the purpose of personal enrichment. Information about connections with terrorist organizations or preparations for coups was not confirmed. Subkanov personally recruited members, teaching them how to handle weapons and hand-to-hand combat according to his own manual. All members had legal jobs and communicated on special phones using pseudonyms. The unity of the group was ensured not only by religion, but also by a strict hierarchy, family ties, and a common thirst for profit. The GTA gang is one of the most famous Russian robbers of the 21st century. Its history began with one tough man with no education, who created an underground organization for the sake of profit. For several years, the gang remained unnoticed by law enforcement agencies. The gang members, seemingly simple migrant workers, made their own weapons, trained according to the leader's program, and used insidious road spikes. Even after their arrest, they did not give up without a fight and staged a bloody escape from the Moscow Regional Court. On August 9th, the Moscow Regional Court put an end to the case by handing down harsh sentences to the surviving members of the gang. It is impossible to establish the exact date of the GTA gang's creation, as it was a long process. The leader, Ibedelo Subkanov, had been developing a plan of crime for several years, and in September 2011, he began to implement it, having enlisted the support of his brother, Holik, and a friend. From that moment on, they all began to use pseudonyms. For example, Subkanov, who had a fake passport in the name of Rustam Usmanov, took the pseudonym Rustam. His real name was only established after his death with the help of a genomic examination. The leader's brother, Holik, used the pseudonym Sheikh, although he later began to call himself Ravshan. The bandits made the weapons for their crimes themselves, reworking traumatic and pneumatic pistols, says investigator Stadnikov. It cannot be said that they learned to do it well. The pistols often jammed, they were very inaccurate, and sometimes they failed altogether. In fact, they took a new weapon with them for each new crime, so for a long time the murders they committed could not be linked together. In addition, the gang members collected the cartridges themselves. Among other things, the GTA gang's arsenal included 2 Kalashnikov assault rifles, but they were never used. The gang's gunsmith, Fazlitin Kasanov, nicknamed Akmal, made a kind of sniper rifle from a smoothbore gun, making a special insert in the barrel for a rifled cartridge and installing an optical sight. In addition, 11 pistols converted from traumatic or pneumatic ones, a gas revolver, and a homemade rifle made from a TOZ shotgun were confiscated from the GTA gang. The bandits traveled in 8 cars, the first 2 of which were stolen from murdered taxi drivers, and fake documents were made for these cars. In addition, at various times the gang had at its disposal a Hyundai Accent, VZ2115, VZ2107, VZ2105, Toyota Mark II, Volkswagen Passat, Opel Astra, and Mitsubishi Charisma. The GTA gang was fully prepared for its bloody harvest. On March 7, 2012, the gang committed its first crime in the village of Ganisovo. The leader Rustam and his brother Sheikh had dug a hole in the basement in advance. Sheikh and another member, Takir, called a taxi driver, Bakram Saidambetov, promising 12,000 rubles for a ride to the border with Ukraine. Under the pretext of having tea before a long journey, They lured the taxi driver into the house. There they attacked him, strangled him, and then the leader finished him off with a metal crowbar. The body was wrapped in plastic, thrown into a hole and buried. They took the victim's car, a Mitsubishi Charisma, for themselves. Bakram Saidambetov was considered missing until 2014. Due to the decomposition of the body, it was possible to identify him only by DNA. Murder of Firas Karakulov, July 22, 2012. This time, the gang acted more sophisticatedly. The leader Rustam dug a 3-meter-deep hole in the Ramenskoye district in advance. On the morning of July 22, he took a pistol with a silencer and drove to Moscow, ordering his accomplices to wait for him in a Mitsubishi Charisma stolen from a previous victim. Near the Moscow shopping center, Rustam hired a taxi driver, Firas Karakulov, to take him to a prearranged location. When they arrived, Karakulov went into a forest belt to relieve himself. Rustam followed him and fired 5 or 6 shots from a pistol with a silencer. Then he called his accomplice Takir to help wrap the body in plastic film. The killers loaded the body into the trunk of an Opel Astra, drove to Ganisovo, dumped it in a hole and buried it. Later, they bought false documents for the car, and it began to be used by the gang. Karakulov's body was found only on November 20, 2014, and was identified through genetic testing. Robbery of a Chinese citizen, September 24, 2012. The robbery was presumably carried out on a tip-off, since the bandits clearly knew who and where to look. On Volsky Boulevard, 2 cars, a black BMW and a silver Opel Astra with Lithuanian license plates, blocked the road to a brand new Mercedes. The masked attackers, threatening with a gun, tried to take the bag, but the passenger, Chinese citizen Mao Chueo-mei, resisted. For this, he was brutally beaten. The bandits stole the bag, which, according to the victim, contained 17 million rubles. Due to the language barrier and the delay in contacting the police, the attackers managed to escape. The money was spent on buying apartments in 3 regions, as well as on tools and fake documents. The murder of Andrei Zorin, June 11, 2013. After a long pause, the gang resumed its activities, having been replenished with new members. The murder in the village of Mendeleevo became a baptism of fire for the new bandit Anvar Yulugmarov, Timur. On the orders of the leader, he was supposed to kill a man and rob him. For a month, Timur and his partner Maksat Barbalov, Jastik, tracked down the victim. On the evening of June 11th, they found auto mechanic Andrei Zorin and his girlfriend Yulia Baranova in a VZ-2107. Timur was unable to shoot, and then Jastik took the gun, went up to the car and fired 2 or 3 shots through the open window. Zorin was killed and Baranova was seriously injured. Attack on businessmen, August 3, 2013. On the M3 Ukraine highway in the Kaluga region, a gang attacked 3 businessmen who were carrying the proceeds from the sale of meat. The victims stopped at a gas station to have a snack. When they left the cafe, 2 bandits attacked them from behind, beating them with sticks. 2 more took a jacket from the car, in the pocket of which there were 257,400 rubles, as well as a passport. The stolen passport was later found at one of the gang's safe houses in the city of Almatyevsk, Tatarstan, and helped the investigation reconstruct the crime. Murder of Ivan Rasilov, August 19, 2013. The bandits in a Hyundai Accent drove onto Novorizhskoye Highway specifically to commit the attack. After midnight, they noticed a brand new Toyota Land Cruiser 200 Jeep parked on the side of the road. The driver, Ivan Rasilov, was sleeping in it. One of the bandits, Kazrakhan Dodokhanov, Farkhad, fired about 4 shots into the sleeping man's head, right through the glass. Then they dumped the body in a ditch and took a bag from the car, which contained only 1,200 to 1,300 rubles. The car was driven to Solnechnogorsk, where it was abandoned. The driver's body was found only 2 days later. The murder of Eduard Mikurdimov, November 11, 2013. This crime was the first in which the gang used homemade spikes, chicken feet. The bandits waited 2 hours on the A107 highway until a suitable victim appeared. When businessman Eduard Mikurdimov, having punctured a tire, stopped, the bandits waited until he was alone. 2 of them, Karol and Mujik, shot him and stole 50,000 rubles and a laptop. The bandits took one of the weapons of the crime, a chicken foot, with them. Attack on Alexander K. November 25, 2013. This time, the bandits did not use masks. They tracked down businessman Alexander K. on Pleshchiv Street, waited until he left his house, and attacked him as he walked to his Audi. 2 bandits beat him, threatening to kill him, and stole a bag containing 98,000 rubles, as well as a passport and driver's license. The victim, seeing their faces, was able to identify the attackers a year later. Shooting on the M5 Ural Highway, November 28, 2013. The bandits were driving around in the leader's new car and accidentally noticed a car with 3 young men on the side of the road. The leader, Rustam, believing the car to be expensive, ordered the people inside to be shot. The bandits ran across the highway and opened fire, firing about 15 to 20 bullets. Yevgeny B. and Pavel E. were killed, each receiving 5 wounds. The third, Ilya I., survived, although he was wounded. Frightened by the approaching truck, the bandits fled without stealing any valuables. Here is a detailed and structured description of the latest events related to the GTA gang. The last crime and the end of the gang, September 3, 2014. The last known attack of the GTA gang occurred on the night of September 3 on the 38th kilometer of the Moscow Ring Road, in the Yasenevo area. This crime turned out to be the most unsuccessful and became the beginning of the end of the gang. The leader Rustam, in need of money, sent his accomplices to do the job. He chose a gas station where they were supposed to attack the driver of an expensive foreign car when he went to the checkout. 3 bandits, Karol, Ali, and Shurkhan, armed themselves with a traumatic pistol and baseball bats. When the driver of the Kia SUV returned from the checkout, Karol shot him 3 times with a traumatic pistol, and Ali hit him with a bat. The man ran away, leaving the car unlocked. The bandits quickly searched the salon, but found only a purse with a Samsung mobile phone and documents. There was no money there. It was this unsuccessful attack that allowed law enforcement agencies to track down the gang. The members were tracked by CCTV cameras, by the operation of a mobile phone with an anonymous SIM card, which the leader carried, and by descriptions of witnesses. Detention and escape. On November 6, 2014, in the village of Udalnaya, the leader of the gang, Ibedalo Subkanov, Rustam, was eliminated during an attempt to detain the manager of the Prosecutor General's office in the cottage. Before his death, he managed to call his accomplices, making it easier to find them. Soon, the rest of the gang were detained. On August 1, 2017, 5 bandits, Sheikh, Akmal, Ali, Karol, and Malam, attempted to escape from the Moscow Regional Court. They attacked 2 guards in the elevator, strangled them until they lost consciousness, and seized their weapons. However, when they tried to break out of the court building, a shootout with the Rosgvardia officers began. As a result, 3 attackers were killed and 2 were wounded. One of the wounded later died in the hospital. Only one surviving participant, Khazratkhan Dodokhanov, Farkhad, was brought to criminal responsibility for this escape. In addition, 4 guards were brought to criminal responsibility in the case of negligence, since they did not provide adequate security. They used improper means of restraining movement, did not take into account the high danger of the defendants, and accompanied 5 bandits together, although according to regulations there should be at least 2 officers per one. Sentences and characteristics of the bandits. On August 9th, the Moscow Regional Court announced the sentences of the 5 surviving members of the gang for received life sentences: Kazratkhan Dodokhanov, Farkhad, Shurjan Kodarov, Shurjan, Anvar Ulugmurdov, Timur, Umar Kasanov, Muslim. The 5th defendant, Zafarjan Gulyamov Malam, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. They were also fined and ordered to pay compensation to the victims. Investigators described the gangsters as secretive, cowardly, and led people. The only leaders were the ringleader Ibaidelo Subkanov and his deputy Fazluddin Kasanov, Akmal. Subkanov was cunning, smart, and had strong leadership qualities, and Kasanov, who was his brother-in-law, acted as the gunsmith of the gang. All the other members were just uninitiated performers. During the investigation, the bandits tried to shift the blame to the murdered leader, claiming that they were forced to do so and that they missed. However, the examination proved that the bullets extracted from the victims' bodies were fired by each of them. Ultimately, the well-coordinated work of the investigative team led to the complete disclosure of all the crimes and the issuance of harsh sentences.